Thank you very much, Jens, for this introduction. I have slides prepared, and this will be my colleague Tobias, who shows the screen. We made it easy when it comes to techniques. Thank you for your invitation into this project, which is very important for us to look at, I would say also, and follow it, because we are also on the threshold to go into electrification. I think your topic is very interesting and very crucial, as shipping, the whole shipping sector lags behind when it comes to climate mitigation. So electrification is a very important issue, together, of course, with other fuels that are possible, as gas-driven boats and also hydrogen and fuel cell boats in the future. I will give you an overview of what is happening in Stockholm. Myself, I have worked with climate mitigation since 25 years, I could say, but also, again, when it comes to the shipping sector, it's rather unexploited area for myself. So I will talk about our policy frameworks and what we do in order to promote e-mobility, as it's called here, on water. So next slide, please. In order to give you a hint what we talk about when we talk about Stockholm, it's the Stockholm region, and you see the map. It's 200 kilometers from north to south and 150 maybe from east to west. We have 2.3 million inhabitants, many working places, 1.1 million. And as I would like to say, it's both a very dense area in the middle, the red, maybe you see a little bit here, but there's also a very big rural area, and especially we have a big archipelago with 23,000 islands. Of course, not all are inhabited, but many of them need shipping transport. And that's why we, of course, deal with that. And as it was said before, Stockholm is a harbor city, has been part of the Hansa, and it's a very lively maritime traffic. Of course, you have a lot of commercial traffic, a lot of ferries, but what I will talk about today is our own public transport shipping traffic, you can say. Next slide. And as every region, of course, in Europe, we also work a lot with policy documents, and our vision, which we claimed a couple of years ago, and which is established, of course, and decided by our politicians, as we have a regional parliament, is to be an attractive, sustainable, and growing. So we're promoting growth, a growing region with the freedom for the inhabitants to make their choices. But I want to especially, of course, look at the words and the meaning of sustainable region. What does it mean in our terms when it comes to electrification, electricity, energy, and climate? Next slide, please. There we have worked a lot with different steering documents that are the guidelines for our work, for my group, for instance. And as I said in the beginning, I am part of the Public Transport Authority and administration, and we are a procuring traffic organization, or procuring administration. We, in principle, buy our services by bus, train, and shipping companies that are under contract. And once again, we have politicians that decide at the end about all of this. And our steering documents, I mentioned them because they are, let's say, the framework why we're doing something also in terms of electrification and emission-free shipping traffic in the future. Our regional plan. We have, according to EU law, of course, also a regional public transport supply plan. Every region has to have that, and we are responsible for that. It's my group, actually, working with that. And we also currently develop a maritime traffic development plan, where we look at our own needs during the next 10, 15 years. And we have also general goal that says that, as probably in every region, public transport, in our case, in the Stockholm County, shall be easily accessible for everybody, even handicapped people. It should be reliable and environmental friendly. And here, with the environmental friendly cases, I would make a try to give you more details. Next slide, because another steering document is our environmental program that is from 4 years ago, but still valid this year. And there we have the overarching goal to be carbon neutral by 2045. In the program it was set 2040, but this is for the city of Stockholm. Now I'm talking about the region of Stockholm. So, but it's in the same decade, and we have also the national goal for that. This is the driver, let's say the driver for everything. Of course, the carbon neutrality and the transformation of our transport systems, where we have a lot of emissions still. And our environmental program has, of course, seen that already a few years ago. And the goals for our maritime transports are to reduce the use of fossil fuels, the degrees of emissions, including carbon dioxide, and also to cause less harmful impacts of the ships on shores and natures. Not very surprising maybe this goes, but they're mainly important because for our work within the administration, we have to follow them and try to reach them. And it was decided last year also, very important maybe for you to know, that our vessels that run, we have around about 65 vessels going in our traffic contracts, shall have 90% renewable fuels already now. The electric part is very little, but we have a lot of now biodiesel and HVO in our tanks in ships. It's very costly, but it's politically wanted, and therefore we do that. And it's of course part of the region's total transformation into a climate neutral region. So these are the frameworks. Next slide. And some important facts. Now you have to maybe click a little bit more. I just want also to remind you, even if we are a harbor city with many islands, it's still so that maritime public transport, and I include everything in our own traffic, is less than 1% of all public transport. So we have around about 2019 5.5 million travels. But it's less than 1% still. So waterways are not, let's say, a very important part in the inner parts of the region, but rather, of course, in the archipelago. We use around about 10 million liters of fuel. And as I said, we have around about 60 vessels in our fleets, and they cost us around about 38 million euros to be operated during 1 year. Just found some figures what I talk about, okay? And then next slide. We have then divided this into commuter vessels within the inner parts of the dense parts of the region. There we have, of course, a lot of passengers because these are very short trips. We had 4 million passengers 2 years ago. Last year, much less, and we operate them by ourselves. And then next slide, when it comes to the archipelago, we have 30 lines, and there's 1.8 million passengers. And if you see on the picture on the right side below corner, you see also the passenger numbers, and in the middle you have the summer month. So you can already figure out by yourself that there's a lot of tourists and a lot of people who have summer houses in these islands using our transports. While during the cold season, you see it's very, very few. So this is a very important question for us in general. Which kind of ships and vessels do we need and do we use in the future in order to have an effect in efficient transport in the future. So next slide. And we discussed it, should be mentioned, yes, I would say. And as I told you in the beginning, we are an administration that procures a lot of all of its traffic operations, and we have here the contracts for the operators in the archipelago. And if we click once again, Tobias, 2 times, maybe you see also who is operating these areas. And there we have both Swedish and also the French Transdev, who owns or which owns Swedish companies that are transporting our people in some areas. And this, if you click again, contracts will they have climate requirements, and I will come back to that in the next slide, but all of them they expire in 2026. So we are currently all on the way to prepare already now, because it's many years of preparation, the new contracts. So just for your information. And there, of course, by saying that is 2026 is then also the point where we can require new things. For instance, electric shipping. If of course vessels are available that can do the transports. Okay, next slide, and this is my last one. There you have to click also several times. Again, I came back to the environmental program which we have, because there are requirements already, of course, but 2026 there will be probably other requirements. And Tobias, if you click several times, they're showing up some conditions of our environmental program that are required when we do our contracting, when we did our contracting. And this is that the vessel's electricity from the shore should be renewable. As I told you, there's a lot of things, active work to minimize noise and swell, and also phasing out chemicals for the operations of the vessels, but also that they should use renewable fuels, which I told you 90% of bio-based fuels, this year should be reached, but and in the future also emission-free operation, which means basically that is electrification or hydrogen. But there it's only in one case, and we will come back to that. And the next slide. The outlook, what we do now is we prepare this maritime public transport strategy, which I told in the beginning, in order to prepare our new contracts, where we then will require probably electric operation. And we also into the work of finding ways to renew our own vessel fleet of 21 vessels during the next 5-10 years. And then there is also the question: which type of engines and drive lines they should have. So, and this is also part then, of course, of the new contracts, which I told you. And once again, just to underline my message, emission-free operation is already existing in some contracts, but it will be a very important factor within our upcoming preparations for the new contracts. So we are on the threshold to a new area. So next slide, where I can say thank you for your attention. This was everything from my point of view. So thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you very much, Michael, for this introduction to the context of electric water mobility in Stockholm, and also to your strategies. Are there any questions to Michael? Maybe one question from my side. You said, yeah, we are emission free already today, and it's expensive. Of course, you stressed very much that there is a political will to afford these extra costs. So can you tell us a little bit, maybe since when were these decisions made in order to invest and to go to an emission-free way? And maybe you can also say, is this a topic that is now accepted by the political also in the city parliament and so on, or is it still a controversial question that is discussed again and again?
The region of Stockholm has worked with active climate policies since 30 years. And we had a couple of environmental programs that build on each other. And the last one is from 2017, which will end now at the end of this year. And there was the decision taken to increase the share of renewable fuels even in our shipping fleet. And this is a political will, as I said. It's controversial because of the costs. It's not controversial of the fact that we have to go to something else. But the costs, of course, because of course, as every region, we are the public transport operator standing for the costs, and it's tax money, and also, of course, incomes from the fares. We have a lot of losses, of course, during this pandemic years. So, of course, deciding that investing in HVO fuels that cost a couple of millions is maybe seen by some as not necessary right now. But we're still holding strong on it. So the politicians are willing to go further on.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Are there further questions?
There's a chat. I don't know if there's something to see.
Not yet. I'm checking this. At the moment, there is no question. Yeah, so thank you very much, Michael. I think